Okay, so you're ready to take your green thumb to the next level.
Yeah.
Outdoor growing.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's mostly natural.
Yeah.
And it can be a bit intimidating if you're used to like indoor setups.
Right.
Don't worry, we've got you covered.
Absolutely.
We dug through a mountain of resources.
Right.
Seriously, stacks of expert advice.
Wow.
So you don't have to, and let me tell you, there's some seriously fascinating stuff in here.
I bet.
We're talking everything from seed selection to soil mixes to,
Oh, yeah.
well, let's just say you might want to stock up on mason jars for later.
Outdoor growing is a fantastic way to really connect with nature and harness the power of the sun.
Yeah.
It does come with its own set of considerations, but with the right knowledge,
Right.
you'll be harvesting some seriously impressive buds.
Okay, so first things first.
Yes.
We need to talk about seeds.
Okay.
This isn't just grabbing any random pack.
Right.
It's like choosing the right foundation for your whole grow.
I think of it like the cannabis genetics have adapted to specific regions over centuries.
Mm-hmm.
So choosing seeds from breeders familiar with your climate can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
A strain that thrives in sunny California might struggle in a more humid environment.
Makes total sense.
Yeah,
So matching genetics to climate is crucial.
for sure.
But what about those classic labels, indica and sativa?
Right.
One of the sources mentioned we should move beyond those.
You're right.
Okay.
While those terms are still around,
Mm-hmm.
focusing solely on them can be misleading.
Okay.
It's much more about the plant's terpene profile
Okay.
and specific effects.
Okay, so terpenes,
Yeah,
those are responsible for the aromas and the flavors, right?
exactly.
Like that piney scent.
Yes.
Or the citrusy notes you get from some strains.
Exactly. Terpenes are like the flavor DJs of your cannabis experience.
Oh, wow.
Mixing and remixing effects based on their unique combinations.
They like that.
They actually work together with cannabinoids like THC and CBD to create a whole spectrum of experiences.
Wait, so there's more to it than just THC getting you high.
Oh, there's a whole symphony happening inside your body
Okay.
when you consume cannabis.
Okay.
And it all has to do with the endocannabinoid system, or ECS.
Okay.
Think of your ECS as this network of tiny communication hubs
Okay.
throughout your body.
Mm-hmm.
Cannabis compounds are like messages that interact with these hubs,
Okay.
influencing everything from your mood to your pain perception.
Wow. Okay, this is blowing my mind a little bit.
It's pretty incredible.
So different cannabis varieties interact with our ECS
Yeah.
in unique ways.
Precisely.
Okay.
For example, Pennywise 1.1 with its balanced THC and CBD content and calming terpenes
Okay.
is often sought after for pain relief.
Got it.
On the other hand, Jack Herer, known for its uplifting terpenes like pine and limon, might give you that boost of energy and focus.
So it's like picking a specific blend of coffee for the effect you want.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
It's all about understanding what you're looking for
Right.
and choosing the right cultivar to achieve it.
So let's say we've got our seeds picked out based on our climate
Yeah.
and desired effects.
Okay.
What's next?
Before you get too excited,
Oh.
we need to double check the legal side of things.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course.
NORML is a fantastic resource
Okay.
for staying up to date on cannabis legislation in your area.
Right. NORML. I'll make a note of that.
Good idea.
Okay, so assuming we've got the legal green light,
Right.
where do we actually plant these babies?
Yeah, where do we put them?
Just the backyard, or are there other options for outdoor growing?
You've got options.
Okay.
Backyards are fantastic, of course.
Yeah.
Guerrilla growing.
Uh-huh.
Finding a discreet spot in nature is also a possibility.
Interesting.
And don't forget about balconies.
Oh, yeah.
Even a sunny balcony can become a cannabis haven with the right containers.
Container growing on a balcony.
I like
A
that.
good one. More control over the environment, right?
Right.
What kind of containers are we talking about here?
Well, you've got your classic ceramic pots.
Mm-hmm.
They look beautiful and they retain moisture,
Mm-hmm.
but they can be heavy and a bit pricey. Plastic pots are lighter and cheaper,
Okay.
but they don't breathe as well, which could lead to root issues
Ah.
if you're not careful. And then there's the new kid on the block, fabric pots.
Fabric pots. I never heard of those.
They're becoming incredibly popular
Right.
because they offer fantastic drainage and air circulation,
Interesting.
which cannabis roots love.
Okay, fabric pots. I'm adding that to my list of things to check out.
Good idea.
But whether we're going with containers or planting directly in the ground,
Yeah.
I imagine the soil itself is pretty important, right?
Absolutely. Healthy soil is the foundation for a thriving cannabis garden.
Right.
Think of it as this diverse ecosystem, teeming with microorganisms, fungi, and all sorts of critters contributing to this regenerative cycle of nutrients.
So it's not just dirt. It's a whole underground world supporting our plants.
Exactly. And one of the best ways to build healthy soil is through mulching.
Okay.
Expert growers like Kate Gaudette swear by mulching.
Really?
It's like a blanket for your soil, protecting it from extreme temperatures, providing nutrients, and boosting those beneficial microorganisms.
Mulching, got it. I'm starting to feel like a real soil scientist here.
It's good stuff.
But before we get too carried away with compost tea recipes,
Yeah.
let's talk about the cannabis plant's life cycle.
Okay.
What are the main stages of growth we need to be aware of when growing outdoors?
Well, it all starts with that magical moment when a tiny seedling emerges from the seed.
Right?
Starting your seeds indoors can give you a head start
Okay.
and allows you to sex your plants before moving them outdoors.
Well, sexing plants now, that sounds intriguing.
We want those lovely ladies that produce those resinous buds,
What?
not the males that produce pollen.
Okay.
Identifying them early is key.
Makes sense. I definitely prefer my buds seedless.
Me too.
So what happens after the seedling stage?
That's when the plant enters the vegetative stage.
Okay.
Think of it like a teenager,
Oh,
focused on growing bigger and stronger.
right.
It's all about developing a robust root system,
Okay.
branching out and soaking up that sunshine.
So during this stage, it's all about maximizing growth.
Exactly. And there are techniques you can use to
Mhm.
encourage even more growth and ultimately a bigger yield.
Give me an example.
Pinching back, for example,
Okay.
involves removing the top growing tip to promote bushier plants
Okay.
and more bud sites.
Pinching back. So we're basically giving our plants a haircut
Pretty much.
to make them more productive. I
Mhm.
like it.
That's a good one.
But eventually those vegetative teenagers need to blossom, right?
They do.
How does that happen outdoors?
That's where the magic of the natural light cycle comes in.
Okay.
As the days get shorter and the nights get longer, those outdoor plants sense the change and they know it's time to start flowering.
So they're paying attention to those daylight hours. That's incredible.
It is.
But how do we know when those flowers are ready to harvest? What should we be looking for?
That's where those trichomes we talked about earlier come into play.
But-
Remember, they're like tiny factories producing cannabinoids and terpenes?
Right.
As the plant matures, those trichomes change color, going from clear to milky to amber.
So it's like a color-coded guide to harvest time.
Exactly.
Oh.
Harvesting when the trichomes are mostly milky with a few amber ones starting to appear is often considered ideal
Okay.
for peak potency.
Milky with a touch of amber. Got it.
it.
It sounds like we need to invest in a magnifying glass
Yeah,
to get up close and personal with those trichomes.
for sure.
But once we've determined that our buds are ready,
Okay.
is it as simple as grabbing those pruning shears and snipping away?
Not quite. Remember those delicate trichomes?
Yeah.
You need to handle them with care to preserve all that potency and aroma. Cooler temperatures can actually make harvesting easier
Why is that?
because the resin becomes less sticky.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Got it. Cooler temperatures, gentle hands. It's like we're performing surgery on those precious buds.
It's a delicate process, for sure.
But once we've carefully snipped those beauties,
Okay.
what happens next?
That's where drying and curing come in.
Okay.
Think of it like this. You wouldn't eat a freshly baked cake straight out of the oven, would you?
No.
You need to let it cool and develop its flavors.
Right.
It's the same with cannabis.
Okay, so drying and curing are essential for unlocking the full potential of those buds.
Absolutely.
But before we get too deep into that process,
Yeah.
I'm curious, what about all the potential challenges of growing outdoors?
Okay.
I mean, we're dealing with Mother Nature here, and she can be unpredictable.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Outdoor growing does come with its own set of challenges. What? Pests, diseases, unpredictable weather.
Yeah.
It's all part of the adventure. But don't worry, we've got you covered.
Okay, good.
We'll delve into all those common challenges and how to tackle them
Okay.
in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Outdoor growing might be a wild ride,
It can be.
but it sounds like it's worth every twist and turn.
Absolutely. Stay tuned, and we'll equip you with the knowledge and confidence to create your very own outdoor cannabis paradise.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Welcome back to our deep dive.
All right. So last time we covered a lot of ground:
We did.
seed selection, soil health, even a little plant anatomy.
Yeah.
Now I'm ready to tackle those challenges you mentioned.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's talk pests and diseases.
All right. It's like that old saying, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Right.
Outdoor growing means facing the elements, and that includes those tiny critters that might want to munch on your plants.
Ooh, I can already picture little bugs having a feast on my precious buds.
Yeah, it happens.
What are some of the usual suspects we should be on the lookout for?
Aphids, spider mites, caterpillars. These are some of the common pests that can wreak havoc on your cannabis plants.
Okay, so we've got a rogues gallery of tiny terrors. What's the best defense against these invaders, heavy-duty pesticides?
Not necessarily. Remember, we're aiming for a healthy ecosystem.
Right.
The sources we've dug into actually advocate for natural solutions whenever possible.
Natural solutions. I like that it's like creating an organic army to defend our plants. What
Exactly.
kind of strategies are we talking about?
Well, companion planting is a fantastic technique.
Okay.
Think of it like strategic gardening. You plant beneficial herbs alongside your cannabis that repel pests
Okay.
or attract their natural predators.
So it's like creating a botanical battle plan. What kind of plants are we talking about here? Give me some examples.
Marigolds are a classic choice.
Okay.
They release a scent that repels certain pests and attracts beneficial insects like ladybugs,
Yeah.
which love to snack on aphids.
Marigold's got it. I'm already picturing a beautiful and functional garden buzzing with activity.
I love.
But what about diseases? I've heard some scary stories about bud rot and powdery mildew.
Those are definitely threats to be aware of.
Okay.
Fungal diseases, like those thrive in humid environments.
Right.
With poor air circulation. Prevention is key here.
Prevention, got it. So keeping those buds dry and breezy is essential.
Exactly. Proper watering techniques,
Mm-hmm.
good spacing between plants.
Okay.
To promote airflow, those are your first lines of defense.
Okay, so we're being proactive with our watering and spacing.
Yeah.
But what if, despite our best efforts, those pesky diseases still show up? Are we doomed?
Not at all. There are organic solutions like potassium bicarbonate sprays
Okay.
that can help control fungal growth without resorting to harsh chemicals.
Potassium bicarbonate sprays. I'm writing that down. It's amazing how many natural remedies there are out there.
There really are.
But beyond those specific pests and diseases, are there any other challenges unique to outdoor growing?
Well, one of the biggest challenges, as we touched on earlier, is dealing with Mother Nature's mood swings.
Yeah, it's like trying to predict the stock market. It really is.
Any tips for weathering those storms, literally?
Choosing a strategic location is a great starting point.
Okay.
A south-facing slope that gets plenty of sunlight but is also sheltered from strong winds can make a big difference.
Got it. Location, location, location. But what about those times when a sudden storm rolls in or the temperatures take a nosedive?
Having some physical protection on hand is always a good idea.
Heck what?
Stakes or cages can support your plants as they get taller and heavier with buds,
Okay.
and protective netting or row covers can shield them from harsh weather.
Stakes, cages, netting, row covers. It's like we're building a fortress for our cannabis plants.
You kind of are.
But beyond those physical barriers, what about staying ahead of potential problems? Any advice for that?
Careful observation is your best friend.
Okay.
Regularly inspecting your plants for any signs of pests, diseases, or nutrient deficiencies can help you catch problems early on
Right.
before they become major issues.
Okay. So being observant and proactive is key. I'll be channeling my inner plant detective, that's for sure.
But speaking of detective work, let's talk about nutrients. I know those hungry plants need a proper diet to thrive,
They do?
especially outdoors, where they're exposed to the element.
You're absolutely right.
Okay?
And just like us, cannabis plants need a balanced diet to grow strong and healthy.
Okay.
They need those macronutrients, nitrogen for leafy growth, phosphorus for root development and flowering, and potassium for overall plant health and resilience.
NPK, the cannabis power trio.
That's it.
But how do we know how much of each nutrient to give them? Is there a specific feeding schedule we should follow?
Using a balanced fertilizer formulated for cannabis
Okay.
is a great way to ensure your plants are getting the right ratios of NPK and other essential micronutrients.
So no need to whip up my own concoctions in the kitchen. I'm kind of relieved, actually.
Yeah, it can get complicated.
But what about organic versus synthetic fertilizers? Is one better than the other?
That's a great question, and it often comes down to personal preference and growing philosophy.
Okay.
Organic fertilizers derived from natural sources like compost or manure.
Release nutrients slowly over time, which can be great for long-term soil health.
So it's like providing a slow and steady feast for the soil.
Exactly, on the other hand.
Okay.
Synthetic fertilizers provide nutrients in a readily available form,
Okay.
which can be beneficial for boosting growth,
Right.
especially during the vegetative stage.
Okay, so synthetic is more like a quick energy shot for those growing teenagers. Interesting.
It is.
But regardless of which type of fertilizer we choose, I imagine there's some general best practices for feeding our plants, right?
Absolutely. The sources emphasize the importance of starting with a weaker solution than recommended,
Okay.
and gradually increasing the concentration as your plants grow.
Right.
It's always better to err on the side of caution and avoid over-fertilizing, which can damage those sensitive roots.
Weaker solution. Gradual increase, avoid over-fertilizing.
Got it.
I'm starting to feel like I can speak fluent plant nutrition.
There, get it.
But let's move on to something a little more hands-on training techniques.
I've heard about things like topping pruning and even something called ski growing.
Oh, yeah.
What are these all about?
Ah, yes. The art of plant manipulation.
Plant manipulation.
Yeah.
It does sound a bit mischievous,
It is a little bit.
but in a good way. I'm intrigued. Let's start with topping. What's that all about?
Topping involves removing the top growing tip of the plant,
Okay.
which encourages it to branch out and develop multiple colas, or main flowering sites. This can lead to a bushier plant with a higher potential yield.
So it's like we're giving the plant a haircut
Yeah.
to make it more productive. I'm starting to see a theme here.
I like it.
But what about pruning? Is that just a more general term for trimming away excess growth?
It can be, pruning can involve removing lower branches that aren't receiving much light,
Wow.
which redirects the plant's energy toward those upper, more productive buds.
Okay, so we're channeling the plant's energy to where it matters most. But what about scree growing? That sounds a bit more intense.
SCREE-OG stands for Screen of Green, and it involves using a screen or trellis to train your plants to grow horizontally,
Interesting.
creating a flat canopy of buds.
Okay.
This technique maximizes light exposure and promotes even growth.
So we're basically creating a living wall of buds. That's incredible, but I imagine it takes some serious skill and patience.
It does take practice, but even beginners can experiment with SCREE-OG. It's all about gently weaving those branches through the screen as the plant grows,
Okay.
guiding them outward to fill the entire space.
Weaving branches through a screen. Starting to feel like a cannabis artist.
There you go.
But with all these training techniques, how do we know which ones are right for us?
That's where research and experimentation come in.
Right.
The beauty of outdoor growing is that you have the space to try different techniques and see what works best for your climate, your plants, and your personal growing style.
Okay, so research, experimentation, and a little bit of plant whispering.
Mm-hmm.
I'm up for the challenge.
I think you're ready.
But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I have one more question. You mentioned earlier that the natural light cycle triggers flowering outdoors.
Right.
But what if we want a little more control over that process?
Okay.
Is there anything we can do to manipulate the light cycle outdoors?
That's a great question, and it leads us to a technique called light deprivation,
Okay.
sometimes referred to as light dep.
Light deprivation sounds intriguing. What's that all about?
It basically involves tricking your plants into thinking the days are shorter than they actually are
How do we do that?
by covering your plants with a tarp or other light-blocking material.
Okay.
For a certain number of hours each day, you can essentially force them into flowering earlier
Interesting.
than they naturally would.
So we're giving Mother Nature a little nudge in the flowering department. Clever.
Exactly.
But why would we want to do that? What are the benefits of light deprivation?
Well, it allows you to control the timing of your harvest,
Okay.
which can be especially beneficial in regions with shorter growing seasons.
Makes sense, so we can squeeze in an extra harvest or two, even if the days are getting shorter. That's pretty amazing.
It is a pretty cool technique.
But I imagine light deprivation requires some careful planning and execution. What are some key things to keep in mind when using this technique?
Consistency is key.
Okay.
You need to be diligent about covering and uncovering your plants at the same time each day
Right.
to maintain a consistent light cycle. And it's also important to make sure your light deprivation setup is completely light-proof. Any stray light can disrupt the flowering process.
Consistency and light proofing. It sounds as light deprivation is a powerful tool, but it requires some serious commitment and attention to detail.
It does, but
Yeah.
it can be really effective.
Okay, light deprivation. Yet another fascinating technique to explore. It seems like the more we learn about outdoor growing, the more possibilities open up.
There are so many possibilities.
But for now, I think my brain is officially full.
Mine too. But don't worry, we've still got more to cover in the final part of our deep dive. We'll delve into the art of harvesting, drying, and curing those precious buds,
Okay.
as well as exploring what you can do with your harvest beyond just smoking or vaping.
Okay, I'm definitely looking forward to that. From mastering the elements to becoming cannabis culinary artists. It seems like the adventure never ends.
It really doesn't. Stay tuned, and we'll guide you through the final stages of your outdoor cannabis journey.
All right, we've covered a ton of ground in our outdoor growing journey, from choosing the right seeds to battling pests and diseases,
Yeah, it's been a lot.
and even manipulating the light cycle with light deprivation. It's been a wild ride.
It has.
We've learned how to nurture those plants from tiny seedlings to bud-laden beauties.
Yeah, we have.
Now it's time to reap the rewards of all that hard work.
It is harvest time.
Harvest time. This is what it's all about, right?
This is it.
Those beautiful frosty buds,
Yeah.
ready to be enjoyed. But I know it's not as simple as just snipping and smoking.
You're right. It really is.
But walk me through it. What exactly do these processes entail?
Drying involves slowly removing moisture from the buds,
Okay.
ideally in a dark, well-ventilated space with controlled humidity.
Right.
This allows the chlorophyll to break down, which can create a harsh smoke if not properly removed.
So it's like we're detoxing the buds, removing anything that could detract from the experience.
Exactly.
What about curing?
Curing takes those dried buds to the next level.
Okay.
It's a slow and deliberate process of storing those buds in airtight containers, like glass jars, to allow them to continue developing their flavor and potency.
Airtight containers, got it.
Yeah.
So we're essentially creating a miniature ecosystem within those jars, allowing those buds to mature and reach their full potential.
Precisely.
And to ensure those buds stay at the perfect moisture level, you can even add humidity packs to those jars, especially for long-term storage.
That's a good idea.
Humidity packs.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like a cannabis connoisseur here.
You're getting there.
But beyond the classic methods of smoking or vaping, what else can we do with those beautifully dried and cured buds?
That's where things get really exciting. There's a whole world of possibilities beyond just smoking or vaping.
Like what?
We can transform those buds into delicious edibles, potent extracts, and even therapeutic topicals.
Whoa, okay, now we're talking edibles, extracts, topicals. It's like we're opening a cannabis treasure chest.
It is.
But let's start with edibles. I've heard stories about people having some pretty intense experiences with edibles, sometimes not in a good way.
Yeah, it happens.
Any advice for navigating that world safely?
Start low and go slow is the golden rule. With edibles, it takes longer to feel the effects, and they tend to be more intense and long-lasting compared to smoking or vaping.
So patience and moderation are key. What about extracts? Those seem even more potent than edibles.
Extracts are definitely potent. They involve concentrating cannabinoids and terpenes from the plant, creating a highly concentrated product.
Okay, so we're worrying about next-level cannabis potency here. Any tips for handling extracts responsibly?
The same principles apply. Start low and go slow, and always choose extracts from reputable sources that use safe and clean extraction methods.
Got it. Reputable sources and responsible consumption are crucial. Now, what about topicals? Those are applied to the skin, right, so they don't get you high?
Exactly. Topicals are fantastic for localized relief. They're often infused with cannabinoids like CBD, which can help with pain, inflammation, and skin conditions.
So topicals are like a targeted cannabis treatment, delivering those beneficial compounds directly to where they're needed. That's amazing. But before we wrap up our deep dive, I want to touch on something we haven't really discussed. Sustainability. I mean, we're growing this plant, consuming it, and hopefully enjoying all its benefits. But what about giving back to the earth? What can we do to make our cannabis cultivation more sustainable?
That's an important question, and one that's close to my heart. Sustainable cannabis cultivation is all about minimizing our impact on the environment, and there's so many ways we can do that.
Give me some examples.
Yeah.
I'm all ears.
Well, composting is a fantastic way to close the loop. We can take all those plant materials, stems, leaves, roots, even those kitchen scraps, and turn them into nutrient-rich compost that nourishes our gardens.
Composting. I love that it's like we're creating a cycle of life where nothing goes to waste.
Exactly. And beyond composting, we can choose organic growing methods, conserve water, and even explore renewable energy sources to power our gardens.
Organic growing, water conservation, renewable energy. It's like we're creating a cannabis garden that's in harmony with nature.
That's the ultimate goal, isn't it? To grow this amazing plant in a way that respects the earth and ensures its sustainability for generations to come.
Absolutely. So there you have it, folks, our deep dive into the world of outdoor cannabis growing. We've covered everything from seed to harvest, from battling pests to creating a sustainable garden, and even exploring all the amazing ways to enjoy those precious buds.
We've seen how outdoor growing can be a challenging yet incredibly rewarding journey, a journey that connects us to nature, to our own creativity, and to the ancient wisdom of this incredible plant.
It's a journey that's full of possibilities, and we hope this deep dive has inspired you to embark on your own outdoor growing adventure. Remember, it's all about learning, experimenting, and connecting with the plant and the community.
So get out there, get your hands dirty, and let the cannabis plant be your guide. Happy growing.